In this video, sponsored by Lancaster Insurance, I'm preparing for an awful lot of YouTube comments. So here we go. We have ourselves a very early Morris Marina. This is hub nut, so this is going to be a test done with preconceptions put to one side. So much has been said, so much has been written. The comments already, we're only a few seconds into the video, are probably overflowing with hate. But this is hub nut. We are very open-minded. I've never driven a Marina before today, so this really will be a look around by someone with open eyes and an open mind. And I know you always say that I love everything, and it's probably true, but I look forward to finding out. I will say this is a very early Marina, 1971, first year of production. You will note the windscreen wipers. Most Marinas had the wipers going the other way on the windscreen, and we'll get into some discussion about wipers a bit later on. But first of all, you would probably like a closer look around the car rather than being all the way over here. So let's do that. So I think it's best to try and put yourself back in the mind of British Leyland at the time this car was developed. You had a range of front-wheel drive cars that were taken over from the old school, but buyers weren't necessarily loving the front-wheel drive. They wanted simplicity. They bought Cortinas because Cortinas were simple, and your BMC 1100, 1300 was not cutting the mustard anymore. And the Land Crab had been a disappointment. With its advanced front-wheel drive, transverse engine and complex suspension. So British Leyland knew a cheap, simple car to rival the Cortina and the Cavalier, sorry, not the Cavalier, it would have been the Victor back in the early 70s, was needed. So simple was king. So what they did was take the underpinnings of the Morris Marina and graft them into a larger car. Something to replace the Morris Oxford, which was still in production in 1971, having been launched in 1959 in the most recent styling form, but with a design harking back frankly to the late 1940s. Yeah, the Morris Oxford was well overdue a replacement, and the Marina was it. So at the front we've got A series engine, shared with the Morris Marina, but here in 1.3 litre form, or the option of the B series 1.8 for a bit more poke. You could even have twin carburettor TC form. Made quite a difference. So the suspension is very much Morris Marina. Up at the front here we've got torsion bars, which in the brochures they liken to the E-Type Jaguar, which I find quite hilarious. At the back, simple cart springs and a live axle. Nothing complicated at all. So yeah, we got longitudinal engine, rear wheel drive, all very simple and straightforward. And I don't think the styling is that bad. It was never designed as an exciting car, but compared to a Victor or a Mark II Cortina, it's not too bad. Compared to the Mark III, I'll admit it's lacking a certain amount of glamour. And from this angle, you can really see the extra angle on those wipers. We'll have a look at a later Marina very shortly. Bit of rot creeping in places because it's a Marina and it lives quite close to the sea, but yeah, I quite like the way the rear wing line swoops up the back here, and a very large boot, because yeah, it's kind of designed to be chunky. This has been a very early, no reverse lights. They were separate at first and then they built them into the rear lamp units. We've got a very period aftermarket heated rear window, where yeah, you can definitely tell there's a heated rear window fitted. We've got these vents here to make the flow through ventilation work. Got fresh air vents to the face inside. It's yeah, I don't think it's an unappealing car. It's just perhaps not a very exciting one. So there we go, there is the familiar A-series engine, as familiar here as it was in the Morris Marina. Only we're up to 1275cc, 57 brake horse I think, officially 60, but I think 60 might have been an SAE output rather than a DIN. And here's a point to note on the wiper. We've got the wiper motor on this side because that's where the wipers are on this one, and all the linkage goes in via that rod. But you can't access the motor internals because the plate wants to go there. but on the right hand drive, when they flip the wipers over, it'd be over on this side, and then the motor could come off. So maybe that's one reason. It's hard to be sure, but they changed the wiper arm design as well, because apparently there was lift at speed, which is hardly surprising when they're sticking so up in the airflow there. Do a door test. Yeah, okay, that's not an inspiring noise, to be fair, but if we look aboard, look at this luxury. Someone's fitted an 8-track. That would not be standard fit originally, but yeah, again, all very simple, nothing scary, very straightforward. Plenty of vinyl going on absolutely everywhere. The sort of door handles you'd see on absolutely anything British Leyland. So that's locked and that's unlocked. That's quite a neat design feature, I think. Keep fit windows, quarter lights that don't open, and there's a proud Marina sign. Oh, look at that, Tom Jones. We are in Wales. I wonder if that means the 8-track actually works. No stereo fitted from the factory. This, even though this is an SDL, this is a Super Deluxe. The Super Deluxe got you such luxuries as an exterior mirror. I got another aftermarket little radio down here. 4-speed gearbox is all you get, and there's the heater controls all quite nicely to hand. In terms of stalks, we got wipers to the left and indicators to the right, and a simple little speedo, and there's my hand, hello. And on the steering wheel, proudly, the plug hole of despair. Now I assume that would have been a speaker if you actually had the radio fitted, but it was quite common. I used to do this in my aunt's van. We'd take a radio, long wave radio, and every time you went under a bridge, the reception would get interrupted. And the heated rear window switch is a little hidden, being down here as it is, but otherwise it's quite good. And you've got these fresh air vents, and I can tell you fresh air comes through those vents at quite the lick. So that's good. I like a bit of ventilation. Oh, we've got twin sun visors. That's some luxury, isn't it? Let's go and have a sit in the back. Well, I can confirm there is room in the back to wear a hat. Plenty of knee room. My feet go under the seat quite nicely, so it's not uncomfortable. We've got some period aftermarket Secure-On seat belts, which are quite nice. Obviously it wouldn't have had rear seat belts originally, and the 8-track is presumably connected up to these sharp speakers. It's all good. So yeah, there is so much vinyl, so much vinyl. It's a shame the vinyl isn't the same lime flower as the outside, but maybe that would be a bit too much. Well, it's enough faffing about. Let's actually get on with it and see how she starts up. A very classic noise, familiar to anyone who's ever owned anything with an A-series, pretty much. One strange thing is that the steering wheel, while it is straight ahead of me, is not a flat angle. The left-hand side is nearer to me than the right-hand side. Indicators on the right, as they should be. There we go. Bit of transmission whine, not too much. We've got synchro mesh on all forward gears, so there's a difference from the Morris Marina. And the front end rides the speed humps better than the rear end. So we've got torsion bars at the front, simple leaf springs at the back, a C15 Roma home there. Very nice. And our first roundabout. Thankfully it has dried up a bit. It was wet first thing, so no demon understeer. I will say the engine sounds very uninspiring. I quite like the noise an A-series engine makes, whether it's in an MG Midget or a Mini or a Morris Marina. They seem to have done very well to completely engineer any fun out of the engine at all. I mean, I think the exhaust might be blowing slightly, which doesn't help, But nonetheless, it's not a bad driving position. It's quite comfortable. Visibility is excellent, and so far there's not an awful lot to say this is worse than any other 70s car. The window winders seem to work and don't come off in my hand. But it's very hard to do anything with a Marina without thinking of Top Gear and the enormous damage they did to car and club. I mean, frankly, it was an absolute disgrace what that program did. I mean, by all means, have your laugh and you know, smash a car up if that's what you think is fun. But it was the way they went after the club, because the club rightly got a bit upset that they smashed up a Morris Marina. But the Top Gear team then started to goad the club. They started deliberately and secretly buying cars just to smash up, just because they knew it had annoyed the club. And that's when my enthusiasm for Top Gear evaporated entirely, because basically what they were doing was bullying. They were picking on the nerdy, uncool kid and giving him a wet willy and slapping him with a wet towel. It was just not decent behaviour, and to be honest, that's exactly the sort of behaviour that inspired Hubner, where we celebrate the ordinary and we accept that the Marina is not the best car in the world. It doesn't offer the best driving dynamics, it isn't the fastest, it certainly isn't the best handling, but they were built to do a job, and they kind of did that job. Look at Datsuns of the time, and they sold very, very well. I'm not sure a Datsun 120Y offered anything more in terms of driving dynamics than a Marina. Reliability, quite possibly. Yeah, it's difficult to test the reliability on a car that has managed to survive, you know, almost 50 years, and yeah, it just all works. It's clearly well looked after and well maintained, so it's good times for this particular Marina. I can't comment on what they were like in service, but you know, they were not built brilliantly. I am aware of that. Problems with unions, problems with management. Oh, British Leyland had it all, and yeah, as the gulf widened between the unions and the management, I'm frankly surprised they were able to build anything. Although it should also be pointed out that Ford and other companies also had their own strike trouble, and perhaps still managed to build cars of a slightly better quality. It depends, you know. I did the Mark III Cortina video and people were saying they remember problems with those as well, gearboxes failing and all sorts. So in the 1970s, I think it's probably accurate to say that not many people, other than the Japanese, were making decent, reliable cars. Okay, maybe Peugeot were, because they drove them in rallies and proved how tough they were. Peugeot, where did it all go wrong? None of which has anything to do with the Morris Marina. But here we are, bimbling along at 30. It feels pleasant enough. I'm not experiencing any death-defying understeer just now, because we're not really going on fast enough, but the owner did warn me that they do understeer. In fact, they were so bad at launch that British Leyland were forced to take action and redesign the trunnions to give a bit of negative camber, which apparently also increases tyre wear quite nicely, but does tend to stop the front end ploughing on quite so much. The 1.3s were never as bad. It was the 1.8s that really suffered because they had the heavier B series engine up front, and yeah. Oh, that's an interesting noise. A slight knock on the brakes there. The brakes are all drum, and there is no servo, so it's a very hard pedal, and that's fine as long as you're aware. Disc brakes and servos were optional further up the range. Sorry, I'm just having slight hair malfunction issues. Hopefully it won't be a problem for much longer. Ooh, exciting hair news to come soon. But yeah, look, I've even got a Marina tag there, and it's ticking over beautifully. Sounds very sweet. Get a bit of a hoof on this road, national speed limit. This is the Pembury mountain road though, so we might not actually get very much speed up, but very tight and twisty. Yeah, the brakes really do need a good shove. The steering's a bit lifeless and not quite as, yeah, it's a bit low in gearing, so you have to give it a fair bit of twirling, but the old A-series engine, we're in third gear here. Good old torquey engine. So you don't have to keep on banging down through the gears. I mean, there's only 4 and it's actually quite a nice gear change as they go as well. Especially given it's quite a long lever. Dare I say, this is actually quite jolly. The problem was, of course, against the Mark II Cortina, the Marina wasn't too bad, but around the same time the British Leyland got the Marina in production, Ford moved up to the Mark III Cortina, which was offered much more refinement, coil spring rear suspension and a new range of overhead cam engines. It was kind of moving the game on quite severely. And worse was to come, because by the late 70s, Ford unveiled the Mark IV Cortina, so they moved the game on again, and British Leyland was left with the Morris Marina, which it desperately tried to facelift. The Mark III Marina, especially, which I think came in about 1979, really wasn't a success. I quite liked them, but I like dreadful cars, so that's not surprising. But the styling was not an improvement to a lot of people, which is why they then got Ital Design involved with the Morris Ital. The amusing thing being that the styling was by Harris Mann, who was of course BL designer. Did the Princess, evolved the Princess into the Ambassador, and then evolved the Marina into the Ital. It was Ital Design who helped productionize those drawings into actual reality, and someone at BL decided it would be fun to nick the Ital tag. Yeah, Ital Design not awfully thrilled about that, apparently, but there you go. But of course, then we're into the 80s, and they're desperately trying to flog the Marina effectively in the 80s, still with trunnions up front and leaf spring rear end, and yeah, those Morris Minor underpinnings that date all the way back to 1948. So that really wasn't very good at all, and eventually it was replaced with the Montego, and not before time. So I think a lot of the flack that is aimed at the Marina is because, like many BL cars, it was just left withering on the vine. It was just left in production for too long, and they should have killed it off and replaced it a bit sooner. But you know, we look at the Mini, we look at the Land Rover. Were they left in production because sales were great? No, they were left in production because there wasn't an alternative. Oh, yeah, this road is revealing how the ride is not perfect. Mind you, the ride isn't perfect in Pete C's Cortina either. Sorry, Pete. That's because he fitted lowering springs, whereas this is just because they didn't design it well enough. But yeah, I mean, this is a lovely car to drive, actually. I think anyone who wants to slag off a Marina would be well advised to have a go. Oh, you probably want some wiper action, don't you? Let's get that on the go then. Ooh, there we go. That's not the best wiping pattern ever, I must admit. There's a huge triangle of doom here behind the mirror, but so bad I'm going to pull over and show you. There we go, good old noisy drum brakes. Can you see? Can you see the triangle of doom? It's a bit hard to see, but you can certainly see the dribble that's coming down the windscreen from where the wiper arc does not meet. Let's put the wipers on again. You see, you got this triangle where the two wipes don't actually meet, and that's what I'm on about. That's really bad on that one. But you know, the wipers, it clears well in front of the driver, perhaps a bit better than the later versions. We shall have to go and see. It's an easy car to drive smoothly. The drums are starting to pull a bit to one side, but there we go. The good old A-series engine, it always pulls well. I've owned a Maestro van with a 1.3, and I was amazed, it went really well. I mean, you wouldn't want to put a big load in the back, but yeah, it was actually a real joy to drive. I liked my Maestro van more than I liked my Maestro hatchback, bizarrely. But yeah, it's just got such pleasant characteristics, such plentiful torque throughout the rev range, especially low down. I mean, I've been going round roundabouts in 4th gear because that's fine. It's just that sort of an engine. Yeah, it's okay. And this was a car that was only ever designed to be okay. The problem was the marketeers oversold it. I was looking at a brochure earlier, and as well as describing the front end suspension as being like an E-Type Jaguar, which it is in as much as it's torsion bars, it goes on to describe the handling as limpet-like, which it just isn't. It never was. So that's the problem. You get ad men who know nothing about the product at all, just desperately looking for a selling point, and they completely overhype it. But I guess it's very difficult to say this car is distinctly average and all the better for it. I think Dacia tried that when they tried launching the denim here. I think the best they could do is describe it as very acceptable. But maybe Morris should have got ahead of them with the Morris Marina. Right, I'm going to take this one back and we'll do some comparisons with a slightly later car and see what you think of that. So now we can compare between the really early wiper style and the later one. You'll see the wiper arms are now flatter, and on the other side of the car, and I think there's a bit of a triangle of doom going on with this wiper layout as well, so it just proves you can't have everything, can you? But yeah, we're back at Gareth's house, and those who already follow, Morris McKinnon is his YouTube handle on YouTube, may well be aware of this another early Marina that is currently being restored. New wing on fairly recently, sills all been done, and is restoring this car actually on his driveway with no garage. But as you can see, yeah, there is it's a bit ripe in places, and there's a very good echo in here. There you go, that's what a Marina looks like under the skin. Also lime flower, the same colour as this one. So yeah, remarkable works being undertaken. So give Morris McKinnon a follow for all the Marina love. Here we are in the later car. Let's do a wiper test. And the news is not good, really. That was BL's improvement. We've got the biggest triangle of doom I've seen since I drove a Rover City Rover. Really must do a video on one of those. And this unswept area here, and that was apparently better. But I think you'll like the way this car drives, because I certainly do. It makes some slightly different noises, because when you put your foot down, this girl's got legs. There's a few tuning mods. I think the exhaust is a little more generous, shall we say, and it's got a mini gas-flowed cylinder head. So yeah, it makes her very lively indeed. We've got beautiful aftermarket gauges, battery condition, oil pressure, ammeter. There's a modern CD player, just so it doesn't destroy the originality of the dashboard. But otherwise, it's very similar. Oh, pull ball gear knob as well, that essential item you should have in any car. The clutch is also much sharper and I still haven't got used to it. Let's go that way. The indicator also isn't quite so characterful. But yeah, in terms of the way it drives, much more whine, much more performance, much more grrr. I'm liking that a lot. So yeah, I mean, all these people who say, oh, Marinas are terrible cars, just not true. I've had a lovely day driving two very different examples. This one belongs to Gareth's girlfriend, so clearly she must be the performance head of the two. We've got disc brakes, which means this one actually stops, and in a straight line as well. I've just been back to swap cars, and Gareth did say that the near side front has got very grabby on that early car, and he's not sure why. So some investigations to be done there. That's not great. That's definitely developed during the course of this test. But discs are better anyway. There's no servos, you still have to press the pedal quite hard. But we'll go and have a spin around this next roundabout, and then we'll come back, and I might giggle a lot. That's the beauty of using the good old A series and B series engines. There's so much in the way of tuning parts out there. I always thought it would be fun. There's a Beetle giving me a nod there, also on a K-plate. Yeah, I always quite fancied the idea of doing an A-Series Turbo Maestro because I'm a bit of a strange boy. But I'm a big fan of the A-Series engine, I really like them. Let's see how the turning is affected by the different steering. Oh yeah, she turns in well. Too much traffic to enjoy myself. Oh, blooming traffic. Can't believe I'm getting held up in a 1.3 litre Marina. What is wrong with this country's roads? I will say that by 60 she's sounding a bit out of gears. 5-speed or an overdrive would be useful. The Marina never got such luxuries, I don't think. Yeah, even by 50 the revs are building up, aren't they? This is great. If you think Marinas are not great and you've never driven one, then you really must address that in your life. I mean, sure, it helps when you set your expectations really low, but given the pounding these cars have always had from the press and YouTube comments, I was expecting something terrible, and this just isn't terrible. This is actually fun. I actually want one. I like this. It's definitely my sort of car. It's simple and puts a smile on your face, and that's what Hubnut's about. It's celebrating cars that can do that. And that is my experience of the Morris Marina. I don't think that's anywhere near as bad as you might expect from the reputation. I mean, sure, this was a car that had its problems in terms of production, reliability back in the day, but the car itself is pretty much exactly what it was designed to be. It's simple and effective. It gets you from A to B. This 1.3 engine is very sweet. A 1.8 must be quite exciting. So I shall say thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you go, and I shall see you in a future video. Don't forget about the Hubnut merchandise and all that, and all the magical things at hubnut.org that you can buy, stickers, whatnot. Maybe I should get a Marina t-shirt design. But yeah, thank you very much, and I shall see you in a future video. Farewell. No, stop that. No, that's far too silly. No pianos. This is Hubnut, where we treat cars like this with respect, celebrating the average. Farewell. Oh, shut up, dog.